Hello students, I will try to simplify the must reading materials of Task 1, which is called the animation principles. So in the first slide we will find the principles of animation, which are 12 principles listed here in this slide. Started with squash and stretch, and then ended with what we call it motion production technologies. Is called straight ahead and pose to pose. So we'll try to explain the idea behind each principle here in this task 1. Now, these principles are divided into categories. The first category is called simulating physics. Under this category, we have these principles: squash and stretch, timing, secondary action, slow in and slow out, and the last one is called arcs. So these principles are under this category, which is called simulating physics. Now we need to remember that each object we put inside our animation contains two things: degree of strength, and the second one is amount of mass. These two properties, let us say, reflected where? In the distortion of the object, which is, for example, the squash, as we can find here in this example, and stretch. So when we play with these properties, we can get the meaning of squash and stretch. Now let us talk about the first or one of the principles is called timing, and this timing of course always study the following properties. For example, the weight of the object, the size of the object, the personality of an object or character, or the physics of movement. So always here when we talk about these properties, so the timing is affected by all of these properties. Now another principle under this category, simulating physics, is called secondary action. This is always used to what? Support the main action. What's the meaning of that? Example, now when you want to animate somebody is sad, now if I want to support this action, which is the sadness, I can, for example, animate the tears which are dropping down from the person or from the object eyes. So here in this case we call it the tears, we call it secondary action to support the main action, which is sadness. This is the meaning of secondary action. Another principle is called the slow in and the slow out, in addition to the arc. Always these are concerned with how things move through space. Now, for example, when I want to animate a car is moving from one place to another, always the car will start slowly, then will speed up. So this is the meaning of slow in and slow out. Now, for example, when it starts moving, this one is slow out, it will be slow, but after that it will be fast. But when the car, I need it to stop in any place, I need to slow the car again to stop. Now when I move, for example, when I want to animate my hand is moving, always the moving of the arms, or for example my hand or person hand is not moving in very straight line, but it's moving in arcs. So to make our animation more realistic, natural, so we need to consider this principle to move the object in arc. For example, movement is not always we move the object in straight line, so it's called arcs, need to be for example considered. Another category we have it to categorize the principles of animation is called designing aesthetically pleasing. This one to make the animation appeal, enjoyable. So under this category, we have these principles: appeal, solid drawing, follow through, overlapping action. So all of these principles under this category. Now, why this category? Always, as we can find here, to keep the audience attention, and animator need to make it enjoyable to watch and appeal, attractive. So we need to consider all of these principles. Now, the first principle here, which is called follow through, overlapping action. So the meaning of this principle: action should flow into one another. Now, for example, when we talk about animating a lady, the lady, it has hair. When the lady move her head, the hair is moving with, for example, when I move it, when the lady move it and stop the head, and the hair is still moving until it's became, of course, or stop it. So this one we call it follow through, overlapping action should flow into one another. And when the lady is running, when it's stop, the body is stop, but for example the hair is still moving, will move forward and then back until it reach to the last for example position. So this is the meaning of this principle. Another principle is called solid drawing. This is to make, the meaning of this principle is to make the character more flexible, not very tough and not wooden. So under this, again, this category, we may also find another principle. For example, squash and stretch, secondary action. Also, this principle could be included under this category to make, again, the animation more attractive and enjoyable. The last category here for the animation principle is called effectively presenting action. So under this category we have two principles. One is called anticipation, another one is called staging. Both of them concern how an action is presented to the audience. Now, anticipation, very simple example. Now, if you want, for example, to throw a ball, you need to move your hand back. Then after that, you throw the ball. So when I look at the person move his hand to the back, so that's mean I can understand this person is going to throw the ball. So this movement is called anticipation. As we can find in the definition, instruct that an upcoming action is set up so that the audience knows or something is coming. Now, for example, if I want, for example, to hit somebody, again, I need to make my hand like I'm going to, again, I need to return it back, and maybe I need to make it like strong to hit that person. So here in this case, this concept is called anticipation. I can understand before the action is done because of this principle. Now, another one is called the staging. Now, when we create animation, we need to consider the steps of the animation. Now, for example, if I want to animate, for example, somebody is trying to drive his car, so I need to make a staging. The person is walking into the car, open the door of the car, sit in the car, start the engine, then after that start driving. So this is the meaning of staging. Now, the last thing, also we have a principle here, but let us say we have another category. It's called the production techniques. How to create motion. What techniques is used to create the motion? Actually, here we have two techniques. One is called straight ahead, another one is called pose to pose. Now, regarding straight ahead, so that's mean I have to start from the first. Let us say what as we discussed it before regarding the animation. I need to start from the first step or let us say frame until the last a frame. So this one is called straight ahead. Let us say, for example, my animation, it has 20 frames. So if I want to use this method, which is called straight ahead, I need to start with frame number 1, then 2, then 3, until I reach to the last one, which is 20. In contrast, the other method we have it here is called pose to pose. This one is the technique is different. Now for the same example, I have 20 frames. So how they use this method, they draw the first frame and then they draw the frame number 20, then in between, which is 2 to 19. So this one they call it pose to pose. So here we need to identify the keyframes, which is in frame 1 and in frame 20. Then after that, I draw the intermediate frames. So this is the difference between the two techniques. Both of them will give me the same motion, but the technique of building the animation is different. Now, another part here, we have it in task 1, we need to understand the principles of filmmaking. We have different principles, so and I will try to simplify these principles. The first principles for filmmaking is called 3-point lighting. Now, why they use this method? The purpose or why they use this one is to light the central figure in a scene. So I need to light the central figure. What method they use to do that? They use this method or this principle, which is called the 3-point lighting. Now, from the title, I can understand they use 3 lights. One is called key light. Another one is called fill light. So this is the key light, as we can find it here in this image. We have fill light. This is the fill light, and we have a rim light, or sometimes they call it backlight, and here the camera. So the idea this is the figure. We want to light or illuminate the central figure. So what's the purpose of the 3 lights? Now we need to understand for each light 2 things: the position of the light and the purpose of the light. Now for the key light, it's positioned up, as you can find it here, up and to the side of the camera. So here we can find to the side of the camera. Now use it for what? Use it to show or to make attention to what's important in this figure. So this one is pointing directly at the central figure. So again, to show what's important. This is the purpose of this light. The second light is called rim light, or as we call it here, backlight. So from the name we can understand it's positioned behind the figure, and always this one will be used to outline the figure or making the figure stand out from the background. Okay, so we have always background for the figure, so we can outline the figure, make it separated from the background or stand out from the background. So this is the purpose of this light. The other light is called fill light. This one always positioned below the camera, and its task to show the other details. Other details will be shown by using this light. So this is the concept behind the 3-point lighting. Another one is called 180 rule. Now maybe we see the figure to understand the concept. So this is the meaning of 180 angle rule. So always this method will be used in case of conversation between two figures, between two persons. So we need to show each figure in isolation during the action. So what's the meaning of that? In 180-degree rule, now showing the two figures one after the other in isolation, but where stay at the same side of the line of action. Now let us back to the figure again. So here we have two figures. They have conversation together. So the camera is moving from one side, okay, from one side. This is the, for example, let us consider the left side. So the camera is moving in 180 degrees.